Creative Cloud. All right. So hello, everyone. We should have all of the text sorted on our side. Happy Thursday. This is Mimosa Hotline. As you know, I am here with my bestie, Ronnie Bartless, our business strategist, and I myself am Ashley Rhoda, your brand strategist. And we hop on every Thursday to talk about what's going on, give you insight into the world that we're in and kind of that water cooler talk of what the experts are really talking about. And we want to share that with you today. So I think while we were kind of green rooming this, we were really talking about websites have been on top of mind this week and just recently. So we're going to dive in on that. Excuse me as I pull up one quick thing. It may play and we're going to dive in on that. Yep. I knew what was about to happen. Sorry. I want to make sure I can see our comments. So for anyone joining us live or on the replay, we really like comments. We actually like to engage with you. We want to see your questions. We want to hear your insights. This is not two heads talking as like a, I don't know, we want to engage with you.
Well, and two, I mean, this topic might really be a good question topic for people because it can get a little on the technical side of things sometimes. And people have a lot of questions about that because it just is, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's set some context for people. I'll start just saying kind of what's going on with websites in my world. Then I want you to share, and then we'll just debate and have fun and like say our truth, unfiltered truth. So for me, okay, so full transparency and also some client confidentiality. So I'm not going too in depth, but I am working with someone new and they built she's in the beauty industry. She built her website through Wix, and at current moment, this is not judgment. This is just fact. If you want to look at it, you can see it yourself. There is code, which is like that alien script at the top, basically implying that the website is broken. It has, when it pulls up on mobile, it's distorted. And when it is on like a desktop or computer based, it's small, you can't read it. It's got the world's most generic like spa photo and like generic copy. She is kind of camera phobic. She's like, I don't want like pictures of myself. I don't want people to see me. Yet every single day, she is in back-to-back beauty sessions over people's faces. Like, we need to talk about this. And she is considering hiring either my contractor directly or hiring myself in addition to the contractor to do the iconic brand makeover.
Right.
That being said, I also have one client I just finished. Hello, viewer. We have someone. Please say hi. Hello. We're so excited about viewers. So say hi in the comments. It might be a slight delay, but we will see you. So also I have one client that built a website with me and is coming back for add-ons. She's now expanded her business into seminars, and we're building out a sub page for upcoming events. The third and last one that I'm talking about, swear I'm done here. There's been a lot, people. There's a lot of websites this week. The third one is that we just launched, shout out to The Right Fit with Audra Micah. You can go to therightfit.com and see her new website. We launched it about a couple weeks ago, but now it's live and in action, and just it's exciting to see. So that's the context I have.
That's right. WRITE, not.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. The Right Fit. So WRITE. The right fit fit.com if anyone wants to see that. So that's my context. But
well, and it's funny too that you talk about that, but when we were talking in the green room, I thought of two people I had, but actually I've talked about 3 different websites this week as well, or in the past 2 weeks as well. One also in the beauty business, who is also on a Wix platform, and which just by coincidence. And then 2 former clients that are just kind of in change mode and kind of talking about their website. One was on a Squarespace site, moved to WordPress, now is wanting to move back to Squarespace, and kind of like the tactical logistics of that. And then the third one is a former client of mine that has an e-commerce site that actually wants to get away from e-commerce and just have a regular static website. So it's just been a lot of, and it's funny because Mercury retrograde starts today and everybody wants to talk website tech stuff.
Right. So also let's hashtag, hey Ronnie, what's Mercury retrograde? Hello viewers, say hi in the comments.
Yeah, so Mercury retrograde in astrology is when Mercury, the planet of communication and travel and technology, appears to go backwards in the sky. It doesn't really, it's just kind of how the orbit works. But when it does, it kind of changes the energy around those things for everybody. And in the past few years, it's really gotten a bad rap because like things tend to blow up during Mercury retrogrades. But in actuality, it's something that happens to make you aware of something else. Like it's a learning lesson to do something, right? But tech is the real like thing that gives people problems during a Mercury retrograde.
So there's a 4-phase effect. You've got technology, travel, communication, and contracts that we just need to be aware of. And the way that I like to reframe it is the comes into effect. Redo, revisit, rework, reassess, revalue, like anything that starts with is for Mercury retrograde. And so obviously this is why we're getting all of these calls right now. And it's not a bad thing. This is a great time to do it, but you want to do it with hyper awareness because there's going to be energies at play that I like to call are like little, I feel like they're like house gnomes. They would just like come up and like you're making coffee and unplug the coffee pot. Like it's just that kind of vibe. It's like you've got little gnomes around that are like, you sure about that? Like my email. This was something fun just to give an example. I believe last week, which was still prior to the retrograde, my email just decided to start shooting out inboxes full messages to people, even though it wasn't. And I had to figure out I have an Office 365 with over 30,000 emails we had to delete. Like that I've never done before in 32 years. Okay, great. Like what? So just gnomes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good time to go do a backup. Run your backup in case something happens. You can grab all of the stuff you had before and just start fresh. So,
I'm gonna make a small note. Call it.
Make a backup of things. Actually, I probably should do that while we're even on this call.
Like do this show. Remind ourselves. Remind everybody. Do your backups.
Do backup.
Great. So with websites, like how do we want to address this? Because we have a lot of variety in industry, in platforms, meaning Wix, Squarespace, WordPress. What is the difference? I mean, there's so many ways we could go.
Yeah.
Let's start with what's the difference? How about you take that question?
And two, I mean, with all of these different platforms, like they're just all different. It just kind of depends on what you like, how involved you want to be. Like what you need, right? You know, and I mean, you and I differ in this. I am all the way Squarespace girl. I will not touch any other website other than Squarespace. And you're very WordPress driven. Like you like the freedom of being able to design in WordPress, where I'm like, I just want to be able to understand what I'm doing in the back end and like put things up. So, you know, I think that it's really a very personal preference kind of thing. I get website clients all the time because it's your main hub of your marketing, right? Like that is the center of your whole business. If you don't have a website, you don't have a business.
So some believe.
I mean, you can,
and that's even a controversial thing too. Like I both agree and disagree on it. Like it's interesting to me. All of this, you have to take all of this that we say with a grain of salt and discernment for yourself. What works for you, which is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I look at it from a marketing perspective, from a consumer perspective, because that's where my background's in consumer behavior research. And as consumers, we research companies through their websites and
social media presence.
Right. Psychologically, if they get online and you don't have a website in their brains, you're not a real business.
Right.
Like it's very psychological from a consumer perspective. I mean, I feel this way about social media too. Like, are you going to get a ton of leads from it? No, but people are going to research you there. Like you still kind of have to have that presence. So that's kind of one of those things. It's even when you're kind of building your system, your website's the spot that's kind of the hub of everything. All of your traffic drivers, social media, email, everything drives back to that platform of how people learn about you, how they buy, how they find out what you do. And a website is just the way to do that.
Yeah, I've been kind of envisioning it as like your virtual brick and mortar, like when I'm on my site, I say, welcome to my virtual studio, AKA my website. I have a gallery owner, or sorry, she's an artist, and we refer to it as her virtual gallery. So like put the virtual version in front of whatever you do. And that's the way I like to encourage people from a brand perspective to think of their site instead of, I think in the past, some people gurus have kind of made it the ultimate collection of sales pages and landing pages. But I think that gives off the salesy weirdo vibe that when you think of it more as a virtual brick and mortar for your business, you get more out of the site than just salesy weirdo vibes.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on like what kind of campaign you're running. I mean,
totally.
Like, like if you're running a very specific campaign, you have a landing page for that. Like, I mean, there's a lot of like analytics behind like why people do those things. But as an overall perspective, it is your business's house, particularly if you are a virtual business like you and I both are, service business. Like it is our virtual house.
Or product-based businesses where they're selling through the site. Absolutely.
Right. It's just our virtual house.
So, okay. We've kind of established that you need discernment going into this conversation. There are many options out there for people. I don't think I really want to go into the pros and cons of all of them because that could take us hours.
Oh my God. Forever.
So, so how do we talk about this? I think for me, what I hear most when people come to me is frustration, budget, and I don't know how to say this, but like how much they want to be engaged with the site and how much they want support. Like they either want to do it themselves or they don't want to be hands-on or hands-off, I guess is how I would say it. What do you hear when people come to you for websites?
So I generally get people that want to be hands-on, or they say they want to be hands-on, but in reality, don't really. So I think that if I read between the lines for most of my clients, it's I really want you to kind of take care of things, but I want to have enough knowledge to go in and change a word here and there that I don't have to call you for it.
Right.
You know, so I think that's kind of, they say they want to be able to do it all, but in actuality, they just want to know the basics so that they could make a quick update without having to call on somebody to do it.
And I have to say, I don't think I've had a single person come to me from scratch yet without a horror story. Either someone stole the site, someone broke the site, someone owned it and wouldn't give them right. Like, I don't think I've had somebody come to me. Now, here's the other thing. That's not my ideal market. Like, I don't want to work with, well, I'm saying this, there's always exceptions, but someone just launching a business, like, I don't know that that makes sense with my price point and what I need from a person to be able to develop the brand that way. But like, I mean, that's not true. I mean, I've started a few, like, shout out to Empowered Sacred Balance. We started her website. Like, there's a few, but it was so template based, you know, it wasn't to me like what I'm capable of. So maybe I don't necessarily like give it the credit it deserves, because that was a new site that never existed. But everyone since, I am either fully demoing and rebuilding, or that's honestly it. It's full demo and rebuild. I don't think I have any that it's like, hey, would you just
I had to think about that for a minute. While I would say I have a mix of clients that came with a move, like they had a current one want to move. It's probably half and half for me, of people like straight up brand new versus like rebuilds. But the people that generally do rebuilds have a horror story.
Oh yeah. So it's like refugee camp over here.
And just the same way as they've had somebody do it before, they held it hostage, you know, or they needed to make updates, and then it would take the web developer like 4 days to do the updates and then cost them, $400,
and like set revisions and insane prices. And then I want to share a term, and we have a viewer. Hi, viewer. Say hi in the comments. We see you. I want to make sure we're engaging too with those guys, but domania is a term I came up for the people that keep acquiring domains. Well, I have .com and .com and .com. These are not like those new, it's our Angie. Hi, Angie. So Angie's viewing from, I forget where she's originally located. I just met her actually at the eWomen Network conference, and she has an incredible company of what I'm terming, well, they call them roll-offs. So they're dumpsters that roll off. So it's any dumpster that's a roll-off, but in my basic blonde terminology, it was kind of like construction dumpsters.
Yeah.
We started talking and had the best time with some concepts for direction she could take her brand and what we're going to do. So we have a meeting next week. So hi, Angie, good to see you. As we're talking about websites, please let us know if you have questions. Put those in the comments. If you have concerns, thoughts, you have a horror story, whatever, like engage with us. It's a perfect explanation. Booyah! Good. I'm glad, because that was whispers and happy hours, and I'm glad that was a sober explanation of things. Perfect. So with websites though, going back to that, how can we give some like helpful advice, or how do we, because I want this to be like good for people too, not just
So I tell people, just based on statistics, when people land on your site, so people read websites in an F, right?
Ooh.
So they start at the top, they scroll down, they come back up, they go
kind of the top menu area,
and then back down about middle out, and then scroll back down. So they read it like an F.
So like a vertical column and then 2 horizontal lines, top and middle section.
So when you're thinking about real estate on your site, right? The spots that need to have like that one main message that you want people to know, or action you want them to do, they need to be in those spots, because they're not reading the in between.
Oh my meow.
They're skimming it, but they're not really reading the in between. So I think that's a practical thing for people to really think about when they're thinking about their sites and they're designing them.
Can I add something to that? I get so about. Okay. So on that top part of the F, that's usually where people, unless you're doing a horizontal menu, so people either put it in the horizontal or at that top part. I want you to remember the customer journey should be there. So I like nails on a chalkboard. It drives me bonkers when people put like about, contact, services, this, that, what, and it's just like this weird order. And I want more people to be thinking like, as they're going to your site, they're not ready to buy from you. So sales should not be the first bloody thing in the menu. Like, how about let's learn about you. What do you offer? How do I, buy from you? And then how do I contact you? Like, give it a reason for that. I find people, I don't know what they do. It's like they take their menu and just shake it like a snow globe and then put it up. And I'm like, what is that?
I know.
That's a thing that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Also with websites, thinking of it, going back to what we said originally, like your virtual online brick and mortar. So whether you're an artist, being a gallery owner, you're in construction, that's, the main hub of things, beauty salons, think of that as your reception desk online, where people are coming in to schedule your sessions with you. Like, we've got to think of it purposefully and not so much just like, what are my offers? How do I sell? Blah, 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 blah. I hate that.
Yeah. And like, it's like verbal vomit on the screen, right? I mean, it really is.
It's like drippy and yucky.
Yeah. I mean, well, and this is kind of my pet peeve with websites as a customer, right? I get on websites and I get so many clients that want to do this too. You get on a website and everybody kind of knows this, like get everything above the fold thing, like, because that's your like main real estate.
Hashtag that means like above the first time you have to scroll is above the fold.
Yeah. Which if you're thinking it came from newspapers actually. So when you were looking at the front of the newspaper and it folds, it was above the fold, right?
Yeah.
Same concept. But I hate a website that when I land on their homepage and everything is right there above the fold and there are 15 things to do.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I ask people about
newsletter, buy now, call me, text me, love me, leave me.
And I'm like, I can't do anything because I have decision fatigue now and I'm like overwhelmed and stalled. And so I get people a lot of times that I'm like, what's the one goal you want people to do when they land here? Like, and you need to think about each page that way. What's the one thing you want them to do here? And that's the thing that needs to be there. Mm-hmm. Don't give me, contact me, buy this, sign up for that. Like
podcast, YouTube, opt-in.
I can't do I can't do all of that right now. Don't ask me to do that at that junction. So like, that's kind of my pet peeve is when I have like 15 things to do like immediately. Because I don't know what to do then. I don't know what you want me to do.
No, mine is
people want to be told.
Like the pop-up window that's like, I was just getting to know you and then bah, there it is. It's like that.
Well, so
I have one that's delayed, but like give a girl a bit.
Give them a little bit of time. Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, like, I know people hate those things.
But they're good.
Like, a lot of people hate them. I get it. I hate them too. They're distracting and annoying, but statistically, like they work. They will increase your opt-in like by 35%. It's something crazy.
Yep. And be mindful too. One of the things we were working on this week is a freebie opt-in for initiating interest to the newsletter, right? And one thing, this is a little off topic, but by the way, Angie says verbal vomit, LOL. So yes, no wet, slimy verbal vomit on your website, please. And if you do it, at least do it in a tastefully chunky way. Anyways, so like what vomit is good vomit? That's what I want to know. Wait a minute, Ashley, where are you going?
That went off the rails for a second.
Anywho, so with the opt-in though, we were really laughing because, her final, so she's working with a copywriter and that could be a whole other conversation. Yeah. I personally feel that this thing was literally copied and pasted from other articles or something like,
that's actually a no-no.
The fonts were like size different. So I could literally see. And I was like, maybe because the client isn't me, they didn't notice this. So I didn't bring it up. I didn't even want to say, because I'm trying to do the job, but not speak ill of the other person and just like fix it. Those things that you just like, tuck in someone's tag and let them go. Like you don't need to make a deal out of it or like put your shirt on backwards, details. But so anyhow, so her whole thing at the very end was like, this is just the beginning. And then it says like, follow me on YouTube for more videos, when the whole piece was about focusing and not being distracting. And then her next thing was like, what was it? So follow me on YouTube. And then the next one was something like, I don't know, whatever. But I was like, so really you want people to be learning more and distracting from the whole purpose over on your YouTube channel. And then you want this and then it had no reference to the newsletter series that was going to be following after and set the tone for that. I was like, we got awesome. We've got something to start with. Let's just strategically. So that's another thing I want to mention is you're a business strategist and I'm a brand strategist. That word strategy is because we put mindful intention into the outcome of documents, not just making shit pretty. And I say that on my side, because a lot of people could say, I just make shit pretty, which I do, but
I get that a lot too.
It's very strategic in what I'm doing. I create conversations, I make action, I make revenue for people and profit too, all the things, but it's different. So with websites, I'm curious, Angie, if you're still with us, where is your website based? Is it WordPress? Is it Wix? Is it something tell us a little bit about yours. That would be fun to hear, but okay. So we're still just calling websites vomit, which is not helpful for anyone. Okay. we had a rough week. We got some vomit sites, but moving on.
Yeah.
How do you take a vomit site to what's the opposite of vomit? Like iconic resource hub? I don't know.
I start from scratch.
Girl, oh shoot, you just told truth on here. Truth. Well, we start from scratch. Like we're just like, that was a great effort. Thank you so much. And now, ta-da! Like, I know. Cats out.
I might recycle the copy, but that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so then let's play from that. So we start from scratch. What does starting from scratch mean for you? How do you game plan a site?
So every client's a little bit different. If I have to do the copy or figure out a contractor to do the copy.
By the way, copy means the words for people that don't know that.
Yeah.
That's not a stupid question. It's just copy or the words on the site.
If I have to do the copy and or image pools, my sites are a lot more expensive. Because that's the time consuming part.
Sourcing. I call that sourcing. Finding all the pieces. Yeah.
That's the time consuming part. If they come to me with that stuff already, or at least a really solid base of that, my sites then are much less expensive. Right. And I tend to start my process with, give me everything you have. I need all of your brand assets. I need,
And what does that mean? What are brand assets?
I need all of your brand assets. Like we talked about in an episode, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look about all the different file formats.
Yeah.
Which by the way,
formats of the logo, everything.
All your file formats. Colors, don't forget, you need your checklist. I'm putting it for your opt-in. Yeah. So all of your logo files, including all of the originals and everything. I need all of that. And if you have a brand manual that tells me your colors and your fonts, I really want that. Like, those are the things. Yeah. I need to match the brand. Like, that's the point, right?
Yeah. And we're not calling anyone out who doesn't have these. We're just saying that these are things that, like, you don't know what you don't know. And now that you might hear that and you're like, oh, I don't have that. How do I get that? You can piece it together. Or you can have someone design it for you.
Yeah. And generally, if I get a client that's like, I don't have that stuff, then I'm like, okay, well, now we need to start at a different spot in this process, because now we need to figure out how to get that piece first. Because that kind of dictates then what all of the font schematic is going to be in the site, what the color schematic is going to be in the site. And then, so I then tend to, if I am building it myself, I tend to kind of take their brand, do their like interview/design brief that I do. And then I take it to go find a template that kind of matches them. And I'll then give the client 3 templates to choose from based on what the way you want it laid out and the look it has. And then we'll go through those 3, pick a template, and then I kind of run off and do all of this stuff.
Put your pajamas on, get the tea out, and let's go.
And so then we come back, I get it to the client, and then we start revisions from there. And so then it's just a revision process of like refining it from there. With my clients, I don't tend to do like very intense designs like you do. Mine are much more straightforward. Like, it's people that just need a website that looks pretty. So I rarely have more than, say, 1 round of revisions.
Oh, we don't have a lot of revisions.
Yeah.
I send my team a ton because I'm creatively directing, but no, my goal is cry out of happiness.
Yeah, I rarely have a lot of revisions. First, like generally the first time I do, and lots of times it tends to be copy revisions of like things we found, just like because you've looked at it again.
Yeah, and because when it's on the site and positioned, you kind of either cut things or you need it longer to fill a space or something. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I rarely have revisions after that first round.
Yeah. We're just damn good people.
Well, it's because I listen,
Well, and because we actually know what we're doing, and we're not just like charging you for revisions. That's not the end goal for us.
Yeah.
Weird.
So that tends to be my process. I am one of those people, I tend to work alone quite a lot. I like to do that. I do that even with my marketing plans with people. Like, we do a kickoff call and I kind of get my research and background, but then I go off and like kind of do my magic then come back to it. And I have very few times, I've done it maybe 3 times, where I've had a client that they needed to knock out a site really quick, that I went to their office, I sat in front of them, we sat side by side,
Design it.
and designed it together.
Mhm.
And I don't hate that. They're nice and quick to get out, but there are some times where I'm like, I don't need you to sit here and look over my shoulder while I like copy and paste stuff in here for you. You know, like,
Well, yeah. And sometimes it's just, it's an intimate process. I don't want to see like how I handstand think of things or something. But yes, I'd be curious if any of the viewers, hello, have questions about websites in general. This is a time we want to engage with you. So if you have questions, you have comments, or you're just listening along, we'd love to have you here. But just know that that comment section is for you to use. So type in your questions or anything. So for me, my approach to websites is, I usually already have all of the brand standards, right? So I've got the brand manual. So Angie says, I don't even know if it's WordPress, etc. I just hired someone to tweak it. Okay, I've heard that before. So that's good. Some things that you may want to look into, just as not knowing, is to know. You know, we always say it's like banking. You don't know until you know your numbers. Like, it's just good to know that stuff. So you don't really do anything with the knowledge, you just kind of know it. So just kind of identifying that would be helpful, because when you say, you know, I just hired someone to tweak it, without knowing what it is you're working with, you can sometimes not know if the tweaks are legit for it, if that makes sense. So I'd be curious about that. But okay, so yeah, ask us, Angie, since you're here with us, if you have questions too about things that we say or things that we're talking about, please chime in, because we will happily discuss that. So my approach though to website design is, because I do have all of the branding in advance, I've got the logos, I've got the colors, I've got the fonts. The next step is generally sourcing. Okay, so she says, you all are giving me opposite info from what I have always been told. This conversation is so helpful. Yay. That's probably the weirdest response to that, but this is why we started the Mimosa Hotline, is because we're the experts at the water cooler. And we were like, God, if for lack of better terms, I'm sorry to use this term, but the market knew what we were talking about, they could save so much time, money, and revisions. And so that's why we wanted to open up our discussions for people to kind of hear what we're saying, and not to bash any others. Again, remember when we first started this, it's all about discernment. What does your company need? What is your budget? What are your desires? That you have to take that into context. So
and I always tell people this with websites, or even with like Facebook ads or anything. You don't need to be an expert in it, but you need to know at least enough to direct your vendor.
100%.
You know, so.
And that's where I've heard too. Sometimes you can only learn by, for lack of better terms, being screwed by somebody, or just the wrong way of doing things.
Unfortunately, that happens.
Yeah. And that's kind of the reason I started mine, was like, I had hired the website developer who literally hosted it hostage. And then the other one decided he no longer wanted to be a website developer and unplugged it. And you could literally see things dissolving. So like, we all have our horror stories. So there's no way to like, be like, oh, I should have known. No. There's no should have known. It's just now you have an opportunity to know, or just to ask more questions. So after I explain my process, maybe that's the next thing let's talk about. Things you should ask, things you should know, things to consider. So as I said, with my process, I have the branding, colors, fonts, everything. The next thing is sourcing. So then I go through and I take a very strategic approach to my sourcing, in the sense of like stock photography, which is just kind of generic photography anyone has access to, such in Canva, Pixabay, any of those sources. And I'm looking for imagery that isn't just so like overstock photography that I might be able to manipulate or color change and fit, but also is in alignment with the brand I'm trying to create and visually kind of captures the essence of it. Then I go into, before even looking at copy, to be honest, the next thing I do is I lay out the menu, because the menu to me is the customer journey. What do I want people to have access to? What do I want them to do? And what do I want them to end? Kind of start to finish in the menu is how I design that. And then comes the sub pages, right? The home page and the about page, the services, there's always a special page for everybody. Like they either have a podcast, they have courses, something. It's their special page.
Yeah.
And then that contact page. And so I usually start with the end in mind, and I'm like, okay, at the end, how do we build out this contact? And then I start at the homepage too. And when I'm building out the layouts, I know this sounds really silly, but I learned this from Sam. What is her last name? Sam. She's British. Sam Barefoot, I believe. She encourages people to write their copy as if they were writing a letter to a friend or a letter to their person. So just since Angie's here with us, I might start and be like, at the top, hi, Angie, and then write in the copy for that section of the site, and then I delete out hi Angie, and then therefore the site really feels like it speaks to the audience because it quite literally was written to do that. And I make sure to have options to click, like buy now or learn more or whatever. And this is such an embarrassing thing, but I'm going to out myself. Does anyone remember the Bernstein Burn books where it was like you could kind of plan your own end of the book and if you read it certain ways? I like to plan websites like that. So if you're at this point, you want to learn more, take that path. If you're at this place and you're ready to go, let's go that way. So I'm very Bernstein Bears about it. I'm kind of embarrassed saying that out loud, but that's how I think. And I kind of plan your navigation because people are going to be different. So you want to cater to everybody. So that's my thing. And as far as templates and things, I mean, obviously you need a skeleton. So we usually pull a theme template. So there's templates are like the skeleton of a site. It's just the building, if you will. Themed websites often have like stock imagery that comes with them or certain features. Like I was really addicted to these flip boxes that like you can click it and when you hover it flips. Like I love motion in websites and certain features that it can do, like it slides in or it fades out or it does something. So that's when I get fancy with shit. But that's kind of my build out process. And then my team, I'm the creative director. So I give them direction on what my vision is, how I want everything. They go and do it. And then they show it to me and I make refinements or AKA your, what do they call that we don't do? Revisions.
Revisions.
I don't do revisions. I just refine the damn thing. So then I use Loom. Here's a pro tip for any of you out there. Loom is a free resource. It's a Chrome plugin that allows you to record your screen, yourself, or both, and puts you kind of like in a little bobblehead at the bottom and you can see the screen. And I will verbally and direct the website. So I'll say, hey guys, move this there. I want that more action. This doesn't look right. Pull that out. Or I have this idea, just play with me. Can you just kind of do this thing? And it's like a vision that isn't on the site yet, but I want to see. Sometimes I'll even do like 2 opt-in forms because I just want to see the difference and what I like. And then they pull it out. So almost like an interior designer would stage a home or something. That's what I'm doing. And then, yes, we definitely present it to the client. But at that point, it should be in my world, my KPI, key performance indicator, is making clients cry out of happiness. Unless I feel like you're going to cry out of this thing, I'm not showing it to you. So in my world, in my company, I guess the revisions are done in-house and then presented. And at that point, yes, it was like this last one. I had made assumptions based on prior information, what the events were going to be. And through our evolution, she had redesigned those. So it wasn't like changed it. It was just there with new titles of events, if that makes sense. So and then those baby refinements, but she definitely teared up. I mean,
my website people too, I wouldn't say they cry out of happiness, but they generally like, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Absolutely. I don't know, maybe I don't know, they tear up.
I'm not a huge crier, so I don't think my clients are either.
I'm not either. That's what's so weird. Like, it's my goal. I remember my favorite one so far, shout out, because she's come back to work with me, Violetta Kroc, when I presented her brand style, style guide, right? No, that I'm thinking like
manual.
The brand binder and the brand, oh my God, I can't even think about what I do. What is it?
I call them brand manuals.
The style guide. It is a style guide. Okay, I'm crazy. I'm losing my mind. Sorry, it's Thursday. But the style guide, I had just put it up to present to her and she started crying on the bloody cover. And I was like, wait a minute.
We haven't even done anything yet.
yet. Like, wow. And she's like, no, it's just so perfect. So I was like, all right, again. Yeah. But yeah, that's like one thing I love. So, okay.
I
was
have
like,
another
as soon
tip.
as I'm done with this, then we should talk about something. What was my
Yeah.
something?
I don't.
Wasn't it about like
tips of like how you should work
what
with your
you
vendor?
should know
Yeah.
and how
Yeah,
what you should ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I always ask what your username and password is to get into the back end.
Okay, but we can't laugh at them at the same time, Ronnie.
No, I know, but
Okay.
I can't tell you how
what
many
you
times
need
this
to
happens.
know-
I just did this last week. I'm like, do you have the username and password to get into your WordPress?
No. Okay, we're really okay. We got to change our tone. We can't laugh at them at the same time.
I know.
Sorry.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We would love for you to know your username and password. There might be something else for anyone that uses a WordPress site. There's something called an FTP password, Frank, Tom, Paul password. You don't need to know it, like what that does, but it's like the key to the city. It literally gives all of the DNA, everything to the site. And if you have that, you can kind of run away with it and not have to worry about rebuilding from scratch. But I would add that for any WordPress builders, you need to have your admin username and password and that FTP password. Any developer can give you that. It's just, if you're working with someone, you should be allowed to know these things. And if they say, oh, I don't give that out, that should be a red flag.
Yeah, that's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag. You should always have full access to your sites.
Yeah.
Is there any FTP password equivalents for like Square and whatever?
So for Squarespace, there is not. It's easier for me to give an example. So if I start the Squarespace site with it, so generally I tend to start the site because I am a Squarespace, what they call a circle member, which is a power user. So with Squarespace sites, you get 14 days free to like basically build it and check it out before you have to pay for your hosting. Because I'm a circle member and I manage so many, I get like 6 months.
Okay.
Right. So it's kind of a better benefit for me to do it because we get a little bit more time to be able to build than just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I tend to start it and then I make my clients a user.
Mhm.
And so then what happens is they go in and they create their Squarespace account and they have their own user and I have my own user. If I've started the site, technically I am still the owner. So my tip from a Squarespace perspective, I'm not quite sure how Wix works on this, but for Squarespace is let if your developer started it and they're the owner, make sure when you're done that they transfer the ownership to you.
100%.
Yeah.
WordPress people, this translates as being an admin on the website. Yeah. You always want to be an admin on the website. That means you're basically going to have an admin login. And when you log in, you don't just see the fun, pretty front side of the website. You go to the back side and be scared. Just be scared. I just want you to be able to get in there and be scared with all the back end building. You don't need to know more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so having access. So we talk passwords and access to the site. What else do people ask?
I think that people get very confused between domain names and hosting as well.
Yes.
Do you find this?
Explain that. Actually, no, with respect, I'm going to just out them. They don't have a clue what domain, hosting, or site is.
Yeah, I find this happening. And I guess because I live in this world, to me, it's just like knowledge. But this is actually very common. So your domain name is your actual address, right? Like mine is ronniehouse.com.
Address of the house.
Address. And you buy them from a domain site like GoDaddy or Bluehost, or there's a million of them.
And the domain is the www.whatever
domain.
That's the domain. The address, the 1040 Canyon Park Drive, whatever. That was
right. And generally, you have to renew that every year. You pay for that every year. Generally, I mean, depending on who, it's around $20 for most people. And that is different from your hosting. So your hosting is the server that your site lives on.
The land that the house is on.
Yeah. Exactly.
The land, like the actual ground the house is on.
Yeah. And I think where people get confused is when they then get bills for their renewals, generally they're at different times because you don't do them both at the same time. And so then they get confused because they're like, oh, I just got a $20 renewal and I just paid this 2 days ago, and it's two different things.
It's
One's
like
for
property tax versus rent. You got to do both, or mortgage or whatever. But then the next thing I want to say is, okay, if the www is the address, the 1040 Canyon Park Drive, which by the way, I don't know why I'm giving out my growing up home address, but that's it. Then the property is the the land is the hosting. The house is the website.
Yeah.
And that's the way I've always kind of like broken it down as like a house before. But that house, the website is what you're building on the hosting or the land.
Yep.
And out front, the domain is the address.
On the mailbox. Yeah.
On the mailbox.
Yeah. And so then, so in Squarespace, when you buy your hosting on Squarespace, your SSL certificate, your secure certificate, it's just part of your hosting.
Now you did a thing. They're not going to have a clue. What is SSL? They don't know what that is at all.
Secure. Now I don't.
We don't have to know what it is, but we can explain it.
So that's your security. So if you're looking at a website and up in the little corner next to the address, and there's like a little lock. If it's unlocked, it means that your site is not secure. And what that tells people is maybe they shouldn't give you their credit card or buy from you online, because it's not a secure. You might not have problems, but your opportunity to have problems is
there's
great.
Like no insurance on the house.
Yeah. And so if the little lock is locked, and generally you can tell that with your HTTP, that little at the very beginning of your address. If it's HTTP, it's not secure. If it's HTTPS, it is secure.
I have to say, I didn't even know that. And that just blew my mind, because I've typed that in sometimes and been like, PS, whatever. That's interesting. I didn't even know that. Thank you for sharing. That was interesting.
So you and just from a security perspective and from a customer perspective of just like
security.
Security in their mind, you'll want to have your security certificate. So in Squarespace, it's built into your hosting. You don't have to even worry about it.
My team is built in. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. I have come across some WordPress sites where you have to buy your security certificate separately.
Right.
So that is now a third cost if your structure is set up that way. And that's just something to talk to your web developer about, right?
So we have passwords. We've got the oh my God, domain. We have the hosting. We have the security, SSL, which we don't even know what it means. But again, we're doing this like you don't have to know it perfectly. Just have a reference of this. Yeah. Then also admin, or what was it? Power something?
Owner.
Owners
and users.
Owners and users, or owner and admins. You know that. Let's talk about people you work with, like revisions and what makes sense and price points. If I can, I'm going to say, I want to disclaimer this with, sorry if you can hear my cat howling at this point. No,
I can't.
I'm going to need like some serious kitten TLC, because this thing is like howling. I think he's got to have like a foot up in the curtain or something in there. Anyways, one thing I really want people to understand is the more complex a site is, the more you're going to have to pay. The more features, the more widgets, the more plugins. You don't have to know any of that. This is kind of terminology talk, but the more things you want the site to do, it's just going to be more. So like, duh. Yeah. I'm sorry. That is my explanation of that. Duh. Yeah. So if you have a course program, you have people buying product, you have newsletters going through the thing, you have a back end people log into, it's going to be more than just a basic website with pages, AKA tabs, that you run. So with that in mind, the next thing comes to the person that you're working with. And I think for me, with my triage center, I don't know how you test somebody, but I would find a way to say, if I think of this, what do you think of? To make sure that you can, that they can express what's in your mind and what you're visualizing. Because one thing I laugh, in the past, I had a client who wanted a water element. Now, me being me, I was like, that's great, but what type of water do you mean? Are we talking lake, beach, waterfall? River, what type of water do you mean? You need to have a relationship with your developer that they would ask that type of clarifying question, not just say, okay, and then you show up with a website that's all about pools, peoples. Like, that's where I get frustrated that there's an argument I want to settle here and now. Well, my developer did this. Well, the developer said, well, the client did that. I would like to publicly announce you're both wrong.
Yeah.
And you're like, Ashley, what? That sounds kind of rude. No, I'm serious. You're both wrong. The client is wrong for not clearly explaining what they want when they say, I want a water theme, pool, river, lake, whatever it is. And the designer developer is wrong for not asking clarifying questions of, great, you want water, please explain more. Ask me more, tell me more. These are things that you want to be hearing or listening for from the person you're working with, because otherwise they're creating a template or a preset color palette. Like maybe in their back, they have 100 color palette pairings where it's like blue and orange and green and gray and whatever their thing is. And they're just going to pick a past and apply it to you. I'm being honest. Now, there's a difference between, I believe there's two types of branding. Excuse me for taking over the mic here, Ronnie, but there's applied branding and identified branding. Applied branding is where they get a new client and they've got a kind of template set that looks close enough to you that they're going to just apply to your business and say, you know, here's 3 revisions. Let's get it as close as we can to you and have a nice day. Sorry, I have an opinion. I can't even say it straight faced. I don't like that type of branding. The other one is identified, where they're interviewing you. They're asking, tell me more, specify this. What does that mean for you? Is this the version you have in mind? That is identified within you, extracted, and then infused into things like a website. Mm-hmm. You're going to get what you paid for. If you go to a base template website developer, you're going to get a base template website. If you go to a bespoke custom designed website developer, you're going to get that. So both of you are wrong, but also you have an opportunity by listening to us today to be better informed and better educated as you're going in. Because the other last thing I'll say, and then I promise I'll shut up. Sorry, tangent gone wild here. Unless you hired someone that says they are a psychic,
they can't read your mind.
What you doing, boo? Stop it. Like, they're not psychics. Now, we have very intuitive ability, and a lot of clients will reference that we have psychic ability beyond awesomeness. But you know why we're also that capable is because we have a process that supports us to know you so well, we appear like psychics. That's different. So your client isn't a psychic, the vendor isn't a psychic. Stop treating each other like that. If you want your fortune told and your future known, go to those people because they're damn good at it. But that's not what these people are. So,
well, and I will add to that just a little bit. I have a belief that there is a difference between a web developer and a web designer.
Actually, there's an industry difference.
There is a difference.
Explain this, please.
Yeah. So web developers to me are kind of the geeks in the back end that know the code and can build it, and they can fix things. And like, they have this like intricate knowledge of
architectural design mind. They're incredible builders.
Right. Whereas a web designer is more like that, like an interior designer. They design the aesthetic of the site. And my opinion of this is I have yet to meet a web developer or a web designer that is both. And some people can come a little close, but I truly have never met anybody that can do both.
I don't know. I'd have to really sit with that. I don't know either.
I
know right now my developers, I love them and I call them my ninjas, but I would honestly say they are above average in their design ability. But I still think when like my client will be like, you know, don't tell them, I really appreciate where they like took the site, but could you go in and do your thing to it? Because I'm the designer on it. So it's like, yes, you can have an architecturally sound, structured, built website, but then you still want to hire an interior designer to stage the home. Like, so again, and sometimes the package includes both. Sometimes they claim both, but like, again, psychic or designer or developer, like, what are you working with?
Yeah. And I would say for somebody
Oh,
as they're kind
genius.
of interviewing people, or if they're like looking at different people,
Mhm.
to realize if they're hiring a developer and they're not getting a designer, they're the designer.
Yes, the
So they
client,
need,
meaning you,
the
you're the designer
client
then.
needs to be the designer then and really direct that.
Yeah,
And if that's not your skill set or what you want to do, then you do need to kind of look for somebody that also that either comes close to being a designer or have two people on it.
yeah,
I have worked on websites where we had a graphic designer that designed aesthetically and gave the designs, handed them over, and then the web developer like just made that happen in the back end.
yeah.
And they were two very different people.
Yeah, even with graphic
And
designers, I don't even think they're full designers for websites because again, they're just excuse me
this,
for all of this. I'm not trying to offend anyone here when I say this. If you're a graphic designer that claims to be a website developer too, they're designing elements, so such as like the banner of the header or a photo or something, but I don't always find that they are strategic in the layout. So the site might be beautiful, but it's not strategically sound. So again, I'm not claiming I speak all of the languages. I speak
yeah,
graphic designer, I speak website developer, I speak website designer, but as the creative director, I oversee all of those people bringing their genius together. So a website should be a synergistic collaboration. And one thing that you just said that I really want to like kind of take into the direction of, if you find yourself that you're the designer, you're working with a graphic designer, a website developer, a website designer, whatever it is, maybe not the designer. One thing I have my clients do is we go website shopping. Now, this might seem really silly, but we go website shopping in the sense of I have them look at their favorite websites, their favorite companies. What do they like about the site? Is it a flow? Is it an element? Meaning like they've got a cool opt-in, they've got a cool drop-down menu. They like that the menu comes from the left or it's on the right, whatever. So website shop. Now, don't leave me hanging here. Don't go do this and be like, I did my shopping, Ashley. Stop it. I need links. So I have them actually create, if I don't fully, and if they're going straight to the developer and not using me, but I'm helping them from a side angle, create a Google document or a Word document of any kind and put website shopping at the top and start bullet points and say, love the layout of this site, and link it, hyperlink it, because you're going to give that document to the developer so that is the creative direction. When clients typically work with me, we have something called a creative brief. It's a brief overview of creative direction, do's and don'ts, aesthetics, outline of everything. But if you're on your own doing this, then you can build your own website shopping. So if you're like, I really love how Chewy has the ability to schedule future deliveries, or I really love how on Restoration Hardware, it's primarily images. And then when you like hover over an image, the text appears. Fine. If you don't even know how to explain something, you're just like, the thing that the website does there, fine, put it and then link it. That is the best way to be a designer and to express what you don't have words for, but you appreciate or like and have in your mind out to your developers. They're not psychics. They are damn good at what they do. I love a good developer. Don't get me wrong. My team, oh my God, they're ninjas. I have never to date given them something that wasn't possible, or they gave me an alternative. Like, I can't necessarily do it that way, but like, how do you like this? And I got to be honest, on all those, I like their version better. So I love me a good developer. And we're not calling you geeks and nerds for your coding ability. We're just saying you don't quite have that creative touch, my love.
I mean, if the shoe fits.
Sorry.
You
I
know,
I can't live without you, but I just don't know that I'm going to have you pick my wedding dress.
right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just a good overview of like what people
oh my
should
God,
be
that was
looking for.
genius. Like, I kind of want to be like, good job, girl, we did that.
I mean, there are so many things we could talk about with websites. I mean, it's such a big topic. And it can get so super technical.
Yeah, but if oh my God, but imagine if all of our clients had just known what we just said, oh my God, first of all, I don't know that we would have had them, but second of all, they would have been in a much better place and a lot less expense. Like I could see them still having been like, oh, I worked with this person, they screwed it up because, you know, whatever, they went to a developer, not a designer, whatever. But I think they would have saved a ton of revisions, a lot of time, money, and frustration had they just known that basic. So two things. One, we will definitely outline this for you in the description of this video by end of day, meaning midnight Pacific Standard Time. We'll have this for you. But also any questions for live or on the replay, if you have questions, please put them in the comments. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts. I want to hear it because we could always do next Thursday a follow-up to this, to any questions that you have, bring you on for a hot seat, help you out with where you're at with the website or give you direction, anything like that. So anyone live or on the replay, this is your opportunity to leave us some of those comments, please, pretty please.
Yeah.
So why don't we do final thoughts and recaps? Because I know both of us have kind of a tight deadline today of time, but
yeah, well, we need to also be better about reining it in to not be an hour and a half. Which I mean, I love that. Don't get me wrong, but I'm sure nobody. But I mean, I think that final thoughts. My biggest thing, I think, for anybody, because this is probably one of my pet peeves, is to, if no matter who you work with, please make sure you own it. Because that has happened to me so many times that a web developer has like held something hostage or said, oh, well, now I have to have $5,000 for you to have this, you know,
well, and
like,
also, let's talk about owning. What does it mean to own it? Like,
I think
I'm
it's
playing stupid here.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that, everything gets transferred over into your name. Like you have all of the usernames and logins from an admin perspective.
You're paying the bill.
Yeah, you're paying the bill. Things are set up with your contact information. I mean, it's fine for you to have your person kind of start it because
absolutely,
you know, that's kind of how they get things started. They kind of have to. You don't need to start it and hand it to them and then hand it back. They can start it, but when you get to the end of it, please make sure that you at least have all of the keys that you need, that if something happens to that person, like heaven forbid, most of the time it's somebody that's been like taking advantage. In my experience, it's been people taking advantage, but heaven forbid they get in an accident, right? Like, you know, like even something worse than that, like not even sinister in nature,
or
but
just COVID. They get COVID and they're out. Now you have a launch and you got nothing. Like,
right. Just so, I mean, I think that's my big thing is just like at the end of it, please make sure that you own the assets.
Yeah. And assets meaning, you know, your logins, you know, your domain, you know, your hosting, you know, your SSL, you know, the FTP password, you're an admin owner or, user owner. You just have a general idea of all of this and you don't have to be a designer or developer.
I'm throwing a new term out there that we're not going to jump into right now because we're short on time, but you are the contact on the ICANN. ICANN.
Oh, I don't know that one.
So every year you have to renew your contact information on your ICANN through your domain. So I do it on GoDaddy because that's where my domain's at. And for each domain, you have to renew that. You have to put in your main contact, your admin contact, your support contact. Like there's 4 of them you have to put in. And I'm obviously it's just me. So I'm all of that.
I'll have to look into that. I don't know that for myself. I don't know what that is.
That is basically the thing that says you own it.
Okay, cool.
So if
we all learned, cool.
Yeah. So I have one today actually reach out and say, oh, hey, we have a domain that's so-and-so.com and somebody else owns it. How can we contact them to see if they'll turn it over or we can buy it? And I'm like, well, they don't have a contact on their website for you to directly contact, but you can go to GoDaddy and they can broker it because they can look at the ICANN information.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So that's also helpful for anyone that sees a domain as like brokered or meaning that it's already purchased and it's being sold for a different price or something. That's a way to do that. Okay, perfect. Yeah. I think my summary is, it's hard, but I would love for people to no longer have the mindset, well, I don't know what I want. I want you to make it. I need you to know I need you to do a little due diligence. I need you to have a clue between this website and that website. Like, what do you like? Like, just, it's okay to have preference. It's okay to have say. It's okay to be like, can you give me a starting point? What should I look at? Something. But I'm sorry to say, we cannot be doing websites anymore, spending what I see you spending, thousands. Well, I don't know what I want. We
have a deeper problem.
Yeah. And I struggle with that. I also watch yourself when you are spending over $1,000. I'm going to make it a low bar here, over $1,000 with any one human saying they're a designer, developer, strategist. Just watch yourself, because even not myself, if you come and work with me, I completely transparently introduce you to the team of the graphic designer, the website developer, the designer, and the creative process that goes into it. So watch yourself. Now, don't get us wrong. There are base templates that are a great starting place, such as Squarespace, Wix, whatever it is. That's a great starting place. But when you outgrow it, which you will, because we plan success for you, just know it's going to be a conversation later down the road. And we all start in size 6 shoes and then eventually grow into size 8. Like, it's a thing. Like, we all grow, but our businesses need the same ability in its wardrobe, aka its website, to grow.
Well, and I think about it too is, okay, well, if my rate's $300 an hour and I have to go build a website for myself, and let's say that's not what I do for a living. And it takes me 8 hours, I just lost a lot of money that I could have been paying somebody that it is their expertise to do.
Absolutely. And you have to think what are you missing in that time that you're developing it? That could have been a client call. That could have been you going to a networking event. That could have been you upselling a client or rebooking a client. It's opportunity cost in a way too. And also there are, as Sandra Yancey says, and all the gurus say, only do the things that you can do. Now, after this video, you've got enough education on knowing what you need. You've got enough to figure out what you want and who you should be hiring for it. Now get out of the way and let us do our job.
Yeah, you stay in your zone of genius, we'll stay in ours.
Please. I'm not trying to help. I don't want to be a brow technician. Let's put it that way. I don't want to be a brow technician. You go do that and I'll do this. And remember the power of synergy. The results are better than the individual mind. So allow yourself to have support, allow yourself to have a team, allow yourself to invest in your business, because your business quite literally makes money for you. So it's not like I'm spending on this expense. It's not an expense. It should be an ROI, a return on investment. By this investment you're making, you're getting a traction of your ideal client. You're getting a visible representation of who you are. You're putting energy into your reputation, your professionalism, how you're polished and present yourself. Like, I could literally go on and on and on. Can we just what she said? You stay in your lane, we'll stay in ours. Let us do this for you. And kindly get out of the way. Because it's a thing and we're not trying to hurt you. The other ones, maybe they were in it for the money. Maybe you were a sell to them, but not us.
Yeah.
And I will also happily tell you if you're not the right fit. Or if you
me too.
Squarespace, and be basic about it, because you're the first year on your own in your business and the money makes more sense for you to be there. I'll help you design that and then be there for you year 3 when you're ready to evolve. So find people like that too. That's vital. Ugh. Yum, 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 yum. Fired up.
I know we could keep going on this all day, but I'm curious to know what after hearing this kind of conversation, what questions come up for people, because I'm trying to anticipate what they might ask, but I don't really know.
So I guess we will conclude with, please leave us a comment, question, thoughts, review, aha moment, what stood out for you, please. That's our favorite part. Yes, we love coming on here, showing our expertise, talking about these problems, getting all fired up about it because we care about you and we want the best for you. But it's a moot point if we're not hearing from you and we aren't here to serve you. This is about you more than it is us. Yeah, maybe it's like our verbal therapy, but still. All right. On that note, shall we call it?
We can call it.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye,
So, all right.
everybody. Happy
Bye.
Thursday.